All right, everyone. How are we doing in this beautiful, beautiful afternoon? Welcome once again here at the Global MUN. This is going to be our final global talk of the 2022 season. We're so glad, so happy to have you all here once again for this, our fourth global talk. How are you guys doing? How have you guys been so far? Successful week so far? Yes? All right, lots of learning. Did you enjoy yesterday's talk? Yes, it was quite an insightful one, wasn't it? All right, everyone. But we're moving on today to digital privacy. This is something you guys must face every single day. I mean, if you're using a computer, if you're connecting right here, digital privacy has to do with you. So today, let me introduce to every single one of you, Mr. Giancarlo Ramirez. He is great at explaining this sort of stuff. He's got loads of experience with digital privacy, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a massively successful talk. So, Mr. Giancarlo, can you listen to me? How are you doing today?
I can listen to you, and I'm actually doing pretty well today. It's been a good day. It's been a good day of work, so I'm actually having a good time, and it's so good to hear from you, Mao. For all of you who don't know, I've known Mao for quite a while, and I can tell you he's a fantastic person, and I'm actually pretty excited to be invited here. So Mao, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you. Stop with the compliments. Thank you. All right.
Dude, you're
So let's get it right on. Microphone is all yours, Janka, for today's talk.
Thank you so much. Alrighty, I would like to share my screen just because I'm a little old school and I feel comfortable with talking a little bit about what I normally do. I want to share a little bit about me before I fully dive into subject, because obviously that is an important thing to say. Well, my name is Giancarlo Ramirez. I live in Costa Rica, and I'm actually part of an organization called Pfizer. Pfizer stands for Financial Services, and this company basically does software for banks. And as you may know already, banks are really picky when it comes to information and their data, and especially with privacy, because, well, we're talking about money. We're talking about billions of dollars that are moved every single day by software that our company creates. And I'm lucky enough to be part of this company. And obviously, I'm talking to you today because I have to deal with data privacy every single day. And I'm part of a team that has to take care of this data, that has to make sure that data is not being leaked, that our servers are secure, that our networks are private enough, and also that whatever we get into organizations software-wise is going to be secure enough, and it's going to not have a negative impact for us. We want to make sure that it does have that it's secure and that it provides something positive to us. Just for record, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Alrighty. Thank you so much. Alrighty. So I want to speak a little bit about data privacy, and I wanted to name this talk, I never read terms and conditions. What could go wrong? Because let's be honest, that's one of the biggest lies that we hear in the internet is, yes, I accept this terms and conditions, I've read them. Because barely ever, we barely ever even scheme terms and conditions. And I'm talking about your normal transactions, things that you do with your phones. You have so many terms and conditions whenever it comes to your phones, with the applications, with the websites that you enter. You have warnings about cookies. You have warnings about how that is going to be stored and how data is going to be distributed. Even for your social networks, there's so much going on with data and with privacy that we really don't see. So what can go wrong? I want to talk a little bit about this question. So first of all, I want to speak a little bit about what data is and why is data important. Because we really talk a lot about data these days. We're really speaking about what is going on, what do we generate, and we don't really care a lot about why it is important. I can tell you that data is becoming the new currency here. Um, in the past, we used to have different ways to pay for our resources. We had actual money, we have gold bars, we even traded for resources. These days, we're having information being used as our new currency. And a lot of companies are doing whatever it takes to make sure that they can gather as much information as it is possible. I can tell you that in my current role, I need to analyze different information because, well, one of the teams that I work for basically does training, and they need to ensure that whatever training we're offering is going to be training that is accepted, is training that is going to be valuable for our customers, and it's going to be training that is not going to, well, last minute called off. So we need to ensure that we generate this kind of data and that we analyze that kind of data. And for doing something like that, I'm just a little piece of I'm just a little cog in this whole big clock that is my company. So I just make sure that the data is provided and that is secure for other analysts, and we're gonna have data scientists who come into the picture and they analyze whatever I generate, and they come up with ways to digest this data and to provide it into some of the bigger heads who are going to make some of the decisions that, well, come with this data associated. And this is happening in each and every single company. And you generate so much data every single day without even realizing. It happens with your phone. It happens whenever you interact with any device. It happens even subconsciously. You can even be walking on the street and you can generate data without even realizing about that. So it is important because data is going to eventually become money. Money that companies are going to be using, money that companies are going to be grabbing from understanding what this data is and how it's going to affect your lives. So should you care about the data that you generate? Is it important? I would like to say that you should, not only because it is money that you give into companies, but also because there's some other people who are very picky about what kind of data you're generating, and how can they take advantage of you. So saying something like this, I don't really like using a lot of text when it comes to my presentations, but, well, I thought that this was something really important. And I want to mention this because I want you to be very aware of what data privacy is, and just try to make sure that it's not only about your personal data, but it's also about the data that you are creating as a whole. Organizations take this so seriously. It's so important for them to make sure that whatever data they're creating and whatever data they're capturing from their users is being taken care of. And we even talk about, and we haven't even talked about intellectual property, because intellectual property is something that is extremely sensitive, and you have so many people going on and on about intellectual property, and they don't really know how to take care of this. It is important to also mention that intellectual property has been shifting these years. We have a lot of people who are opening their intellectual property for others to use it, and they're not only creating software but also creating different other things. For example, medicines. They're creating recipes. They're creating even the blueprints for different machines that are now open, and it is something very positive that we're having. But it's also important to make sure that whenever it comes to something that it's been or that is meant to be kept secret, for us to be able to keep it secret. So data privacy basically helps us take care of this. I want to mention something, and it is that we're having one attack every 39 seconds around the world. That's kind of an estimate that was taken last year, and things can even go up. So this kind of topic is sensitive and it's important, and it's good for you to know this. Um, I want to ask a question, and I hope that the audience is going to be willing to answer. But how many passwords do you, on a daily basis, have to input? 6, 7, 2, 1? Do you know how many passwords you have to enter? I'll take that silence as a no. And it is completely good. It is completely normal. Some of the passwords that we enter are even done without even thinking. Sometimes we even input passwords like the one on our phones. We're having different phones who have their traditional passwords, pins that are numeric pins. We even have some of them who are carried out where they figure that you have to draw on your phone, which was a nice thing. And do you know why these phones were inputted with a figure rather than with numbers? Anybody could make any guess why that was done that way?
Perhaps because numbers is just like inputting data, and they might be easy to guess, but a figure, you have way more possibilities. So yeah, it might be a little bit more difficult. Plus, it's not that intuitive as with
That is
numbers.
so good. Yeah, it is completely valid. What you're saying is extremely good, because it is that way. I mean, the original intent was to make sure that we were inputting something that was even more difficult for others to figure out. Have you seen new phones with that? I'm asking because that was a tendency around the 2015, 16, 17, somewhere around that. But have you seen new phones or new devices with this kind of figures?
I don't think so. Now it's just like face recognition or
Correct.
fingerprint recognition.
Yep, and there is actually a reason why it is that way. It became so simple for others to guess someone's figure code based on just looking at the screen. Screens, when you move your figure around, it was extremely simple to just have your hands dirty, have some dust in it, and you can figure out what kind of figure that was about. Even people became lazy when it came to these kind of figures, and they just made kind of an X or a square, stuff like that. So they started having security issues, and users started complaining. And it was so simple for companies to say, hey, I'm really sorry, but you need to figure out something more difficult, or you can go to the number pin. They even allowed others to have alphanumeric passwords like the ones that you're seeing over here. Rather than having this pin, they were asking to have alphanumeric numbers. And all of those were good and everything, but it wasn't obviously what it was expected. And as you mentioned, yeah, they migrated to biometric security, which is being used in so many other devices today. I can tell you, the banking industry, which is one that I'm very, very aware of because of pretty much where I work, and as I was telling you, it is one of the pickiest whenever it comes to security, has really shifted towards using biometric security. They're asking for either your fingerprint, or they're asking to have your face. They're even asking for more than one type of authentication, which is something that is good for this kind of privacy, because, well, even though something as secure as your fingerprint um, there's always a possibility for someone to bypass that. I can tell you about horrible crimes that have happened with people who have lost a finger just because they wanted to, because, well, the perpetrator wanted to have access to their banking information. So some of the banks are asking for what it's called a two-way authentication. Anybody has any idea what two-way authentication is, or sorry, two-factor authentication is? Okay, I'll take the silence as a no. Well,
Remember
two-factor
that.
Oh, yeah, please go ahead.
Remember that we're raising our hands on the Zoom meeting.
Oh my
That's
bad.
why sometimes
I'm
we're
really
in
sorry.
silence. Yeah, no problem.
I'm truly sorry. I had my notes displayed and I didn't see the Zoom. I'm super sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Alrighty. I see someone. Thanks. I see someone's hand up. So I
Yeah.
don't really want to butcher anyone's name.
It's
I'll
Jaira.
let's say Jahaira.
Yeah. Well,
Awesome. Thanks.
if I'm not wrong, it's like just my idea. The two part of authentication is like these two. How can I tell you? These two steps you follow, like for making sure it's you. For example, in some apps or some web pages, it allows you to put like two questions. For example, who was your first teacher at school, and then a code. Like just that type of answers, and that make like really sure is you again.
Well, actually, that is partially right, because that is one of the factors that we can have, and I'm talking about two-factor authentication because that is one of the most common ones. I can see Santiago, whose hand is up. So Santiago, do you want to add something before I fully jumped into this? Because dude, I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I believe that also two-factor authentication is when you log into your account and then you have like put your password and everything, but it asks for a code that gets to a specific email or phone number that you have access to, or a certain app. I believe there are some authenticator apps that only you have access to, so that if a hacker or somebody who wants to access your account knows your password, he can't access the account still, because he, for example, doesn't have a phone with your phone number. Like, he doesn't have the SIM card, or he might not have your email's password. So I think that's why it's also important. I don't actually practice it because most of my things are from like the school, and I don't think hackers want to hack my school email or like gaming accounts or something, but it is recommended to use different passwords for different things, because if the password from your email is the same as the one of the account they're trying to hack, then they might be able to surpass that two-factor authentication. But in general, it's something like that. Like, they send you a code, which is special to something that only you have access, and that way they prove that it's you and not a hacker.
Well, that is very true. Definitely, that is one of the methods that we're using today. The one that was mentioned before, that has to do with having some questions. That is another example of the two-factor authentication, and I'm talking about two because we have what it's called the multi-factor authentication, and obviously multi will take into consideration the two-factor authentication, but it is more current, currently we're having this kind of method that Santiago was describing, which is we're going to receive a code on our phones, whether it is via text message or if it is an email, whatever method that is, or whatever channel it is decided. That is one way to actually have access and to confirm that. And some of the companies are even requiring that, especially companies who move money. And I'm not talking just about banks. I'm talking about something like PayPal. I'm also talking about And it's fun that you talk about the gaming industry, because it is an industry that moves so much money. It's so big when it comes to moving money. Uh, Alan, do you want to say something?
Just to give a small fact about video game industry, and it is bigger than movie industry right now.
Yeah, you're right. And they move more money than movies do. They even move they move more money than streaming companies do. So, and in saying that, a lot of people think that it is, and I'm just using this example because it really caught my attention. But a lot of people think that it's so very common to not care about what kind of account you have for your gaming consoles, for um, your your gaming accounts, and most people don't really pay attention to this, which is a big mistake, because in a lot of your consoles, a lot of this kind of accounts, you have a credit card tied to it, and because you have a credit card tied to it, there's money that hackers can actually um, take. And I'm using the word hacker very loosely, because it's not the only kind of people who can actually get into this. Actually, the right word should be cracker. But well, I'm just mentioning this. It is important for you to remember that wherever you have money, wherever you have something tied to any financial resource, people who take advantage of this will like to have access to. Just for record, folks, if you see me looking a little bit to the left, is the things that I have two monitors, and kind of my main monitor is over here to the left. So yeah, that's in case that you're wondering about why am I looking at this. So now I'm displaying some password managers. These password managers, these are not the only password managers by any means. There's so many out there, and these are basically for your desktop and for your mobile device. That's why I look for this. But these are password managers. I'm actually suggesting this, or I'm bringing this up because it is good for you to have a complex password. But it's difficult to remember those complex passwords. It's always good to know that you have a password that you can remember, and that it has at least 8 characters, and that these characters should be different from varying numbers and symbols, and also upper and lowercase. That is important, but it's difficult to keep track of everything that you have, especially when you want to have different passwords for each and every different thing that you have. Think that you're going to have one for your school, one for your email account, another one for your PC, another one for your phone, another one for different applications where you have any credit card tied to, and you can end up being a mad person. So try to use a password manager. It's going to really simplify your lives. You're going to have to remember one password that is going to be changed, everything that is going to be changing. And the multi-factor authentication, it is good. It's something that is going to give you some ease of mind, but it's always good to have kind of like a fallback. So this kind of software is going to really help you. About cyber attacks, that's something that I really like to talk about. I'm sorry, I saw that there was a hand. There was.
Yeah, it
There was
was.
those, should I go back to? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, just one question about the password managers.
Please.
I've never used it, but I have the service of the McAfee antivirus, and I see that they
Mhm,
have this thing called True Key or something like that. How good is that
mhm.
password manager for you?
Well, I can tell you that in my company we use McAfee as our antivirus provider. So I could tell you, I could talk to you about the antivirus, and I can tell you that it's a really good one. It's industry standard, and it has so many positive things, which will make me think that their software is going to be good. But I would recommend you to Google it. I mean, it's always good to go to Google, just look for the reputation that this kind of software has, And I can tell you, it's so rare that people actually Google these kind of things, like what is the reputation that a software has, that any kind of tool has, that you'll be surprised. So feel free to go there. I can tell you it's kind of like a 15-minute thing, and you can even do the following. Try to do top whatever type of software you're looking for. In this case, top password keeping software, and you're going to see a lot of different options. Since you have that one available, I would recommend you to use it. If you have none, it's better to have that one than not actually having any, especially because you're going to be protected by McAfee. And they have to put their names and reputations to it. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to be good. But again, Googling it, taking 15 minutes out of your day just to Google that, it's a really good recommendation.
Yeah, thank you.
Alrighty. Hey, you're very welcome. About cyber attacks, there's so many different types of cyber attacks out there. Evil people, and I'm going to say evil with big quotations right now, are becoming extremely creative. They're getting different types of attacks. One of the most common, and I can tell you, the most common one that we're having these days is malware attacks. And malware attacks are basically pieces of software that are going to be installed in the background of your computer, and that are going to be doing different actions that will prevent you from correctly using your machine, or they're going to be stealing information from you, sending it to a second device, right, to store it, and then for others to analyze whatever they can find that it's going to be positive for them. May I ask you about these cyber attacks? What do you think is their main goal? I mean, just out of curiosity. Alrighty, I see Salvador and Augusto and also Santiago. Salvador, can you go first? Then we can get the rest of viewpoints, please.
So I think the two main goals are, first of all, money, and second of all, information.
Okay, that's good. Anyone has any additional aspect that would like to mention?
There's someone wrote
And
on
for record, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd say the main ones are, like Salvador said, money and information, but I'd say there's also certain viruses that just seek to completely destroy your computer. Like, they're rare, but also like annoying to people, or making them like have to waste more money on software, or even like attacks for businesses. So let's say that, for example, there's an enemy business and you're a hacker and you hack it to destroy their computers or something, but I'd say it's not that common. I'd say it's mostly for money and information.
Completely good. Augusto, you want to add something? Now that I see
Sure,
your hand raising up.
they in fact want that information, but it's primarily to also not only get things from you, but to blackmail you. Oftenly, they will give you like chance of getting that information back, and if they find something with especially malware that is attached to your computer and is there every time you use it, and they can dig deeper into more private stuff. So maybe they can get like your account to Twitter, or maybe they can get your account to something more private that other people don't know you do. So that's the way that they blackmail, for example, important people with like politicians and other information that they don't want to get out. And that's what the malware is used for.
Perfect. Actually, that is something really good. We have different types of attacks, as you were saying, and well, I can tell you, at the very bottom, bottom of it, what this kind of attacks try to get is, well, resources. Money is obviously one of the big things here, but information is also another one, as you have mentioned, and we even have different types of names for this kind of attacks. Ransomware is one that relates to what Augusto was saying last, which is, well, getting information, telling someone, hey, we have your information, you're going to have this, and give us this sum of money or this sum of resources, because now we have cryptocurrency that, even though it is technically money, it is also information. So they may ask for that kind of thing. So it doesn't only happen to politicians, as it was mentioned, but it also happens to a lot of other people. Not only governments, big companies have this kind of ransomware. There was a very well-known case that happened to a big company called Equifax. This company, and funny enough, their offices in Costa Rica are right next to our offices from Pfizer. That were side by side, and it was very difficult to see them struggle and to see those faces of concern that they had, because what happened was that a malware was installed on their computers without them realizing, and there was a backdoor that was created. People started stealing information from the US government, and if you know something about the US, they don't like information being stolen from them. So they ended up getting a big ransom from the company who was, or well, the group who actually got this ransom were in place, and God, you have no idea how that impacted the reputation of the company. And if you do, well, you'll know how big that was. Santiago, I see your hand raising up.
Yeah, about the ransomwares, I know that recently
Mhm.
there was a case in here in Costa Rica. I'm also from Costa Rica, about the government, where these hackers known as Conti, they hacked the Ministry of Hacienda and other ministries and organizations, and were asking for money. However, what's really weird is that they even asked for a discount and everything, just for them to get paid and all of that. So, would you say that that is staged, or that it was like an actual real attack? Besides, say, well, it could have been an attack, it's mostly staged.
Well, Santiago, I cannot, especially because I'm being recorded right now, I cannot say whether it was staged or not. What I can tell you is that it's obviously difficult, and it's a tough position to be at, because having a group that actually has your information, and for them to expose it, it's extremely simple. It's very simple for them to expose this kind of information. Today we have so many ways to leak this kind of information that it's difficult. I can tell you that circumstances are obviously different, but I can also tell you that it's extremely common for groups to go on, ask for something, and then realize that perhaps their initial bargain was a little too high, and for them to start negotiating to get into a sum that is doable for both parts. I can tell you that I do that pretty much every month whenever it comes to negotiating with providers. So it's not unusual to have this kind of numbers go up and down. So I wouldn't say that it's staged because of that. I just simply don't know. But I can tell you that the reasons are valid. The thought is not very crazy to think of. It's not like you're a conspiracy theorist because of thinking that. It's more like it's a tough topic to be at, and it's a tough position to be at, especially for a new government. So, well, I just hope that things work out for the best. There are other types of attacks. We have worms that can be installed. We even have SQL injections. And if you don't know what a SQL injection is, it's basically adding specific codes to databases that will do an action that the owner of this database does not want to have. Either it is data being sent to a different server, or a lot of requests happening. These kind of injections were originally thought for servers who required more traffic, and they needed to have testing going on. So, well, this kind of people discovered that they could do something like that, that they could look for a backdoor, get it installed, and then send a lot of different requests. We even have attacks where the main objective is basically to eliminate a service. So they get into one of the services, they get into one of the websites, they get bots, and they ask the bot to repeat an action over and over until it gets saturated, because, well, the services can get saturated, and it ends up basically eliminating one of the services. So the server becomes completely unable to respond to the many requests that it has, and it ends up just basically going down. So that's, in a general sense, what this kind of attacks do. They look for eliminating services, they look for money, they look for ransom, they look for a lot of other resources. Now I'm going to tell you that something that you already know, because I'm fairly certain that you know that we have both an online and offline life, and this kind of lives have repercussions to one another. It's not like you're always going to have your mom telling you to get off the phone, or that you're going to have your dad yell you because you have not taken the trash out because you have spent a lot of time playing something. Online can actually affect your offline, and offline can affect your online. That's something that happens. So I'm going to ask you about this. Public or private accounts? Do any of you have public accounts, public social media accounts? Okay, I don't believe that I have a lot of influencers here. Augusto, I believe that I have you raising your hand up, and I see a check, which I have no idea what this check is about. Sorry, I have a yes. Okay, cool. I have a yes. May I ask who? Oh, Augusto, you're the one who has this kind of public account?
I mean, yeah, but it's not like I'm an influencer. I just have my account public.
You are not?
No, sadly. No.
I see another one there. I believe that Daniela, you have a public one, right?
I have a public TikTok account, but it doesn't have my name in it because I was told it was smart to not put your name in it and just like have it there. But my Instagram and stuff is private because I find it super creepy to have people like looking at that type of stuff.
Really, you do? I mean, having people looking all over your pictures make you cringe? Really? Of course it does. It's awful to think that someone is going to be looking at your things without your concern, and oh god, it's awful. Genesis, I believe that you also have did I have a yes from you?
Yes, I do have a public account on Instagram, but I'm not an influencer or sorts. It just I know it is bad, and you will tell me something, but I'm a little bit reckless with my accounts, so I need to take care better of them.
Don't worry, it has happened to us all, and we don't even realize it sometimes, because normally the default is to have it public. Then you have to start playing a little bit with the privacy. So I'm just asking that because it's extremely common. I believe that Santiago, you have your hand raising up. So
Yeah, it was about that. I do have a public account, but on Facebook, I believe, because I'm not sure if you can put it private. I mostly had it because I wanted to play the games. I don't really use them. But in general, I don't really have like that much information about me. So, I mean,
Okay.
that's just, and I only accept as friends, like my family and like that. And on Instagram, I do have it private. So in general,
Okay,
like,
that's
yeah, I
good.
prefer to have them private and just for to accept people that I know, because yeah, there can be also some risky things on the web, and it's better to stay safe.
Definitely, that's wise to say. Fernanda, I believe that you have your hand raising up as well.
Yes, I was going to say something very similar than Santiago. Because it's true. I mean, and I guess it's better to have your private account because you never know who's gonna watch your thing. But other
Mhm.
factor that really have influence is what you put on your blog. I mean,
Mhm.
it depends a lot because what happened if I post every single thing that I do in the day? What happened if I put my breakfast and everything? All the people will know that I eat this in the morning. So actually, I mean, we never stop to know others person. So maybe we can have a trouble with an internal person that we know or we think that we know making this, and there exists other type of people that accept every every friend solicitation. So I guess that it depends a lot in that. In is I guess that's in your our hands basically. Even if it is a public or a private account, the better you have it private. But it's in our hands what we public, and it's in our hands and what we want to show to the people. So I guess that it have a lot of
Yeah,
influence.
that is very true. That is something extremely good to that you have mentioned, and I ask this question mainly because, well, I can tell you, it's not very common to have kids who are in high school to have their own businesses, but it's, I mean, it's possible. That's what I'm asking. um, it's normal for some accounts to be public, and it's been done by default. And as it, as you just mentioned, it depends on what we want to get into these accounts. A lot of different public accounts are created basically because of a business reason. So we have different people who have their businesses, who have whatever they need to do, actually promoted via social networks. And this kind of networking has really made businesses grow. It has made a lot of different people get a business where there was none. And I started with the whole joke of influencers because these were people who were basically people. They were they were people who were followed, and brands started looking at the possibility of getting revenue out of what they were doing because they were getting targeted information to a specific type of audience that they wanted to reach, and they were reaching them by giving them content that they actually liked. So that's pretty much how influencers started. Um, and they started this by exposing their data. So that exposition is not always something negative. It really depends on how you're using that data and how you're using that exposition to your advantage or to your disadvantage. Daniel, I see your hand rising up.
Yes, I believe what we're talking about is like the digital footprint. I don't know if
Mhm.
it was in like my school, but we used to talk about it a lot and how even though you have private accounts and everything, that information is still like out there. And with influencers, their digital footprint is just way more open to the public. But I'm sure even with all of our private accounts and stuff, it's still something that's there to like mark us. So I believe that's the
Mhm.
term, if I'm not mistaken.
No, actually, you're right. Yeah, the digital footprint that one leaves will be left whether it is a public or private account. It's going to be there, and unless you start fully aligned with whatever you're doing, you're going to have very little digital footprint, even if you lie. But you still have that kind of digital footprint. And I wanted to, now that we're talking about that digital footprint, I wanted to speak a little bit of IoT or Internet of Things, which is, I have a question. Now that we're talking about digital footprint, do people who don't have social networks still have a digital life, or they don't?
Yeah, they do.
Yes, because
Why?
there's still PlayStation or browsing on the internet, or even like email, contacting people, WhatsApp, which even though it's more or less like a social media, it's more for communication. So in general, they still have some information out there, like their phone number or in general what they Google, because and even like if they don't use a computer much, I don't know if you have tried on an experiment, but if you talk about something for some time in front of a computer and you go to a website that has ads, then ads of that specific product are going to appear. Or if you're like, if you have a tendency to click certain ads, then they're going to keep appearing. So in general, they still do have, there's also Amazon, eBay, Uber Eats, which are all digital products that maybe they're not social media, but people still use. And they also have certain information. I mean, even the house address can be found in
That
certain,
happens.
yeah.
That's definitely happening. I want to hear what
Yeah.
I want to hear from Luz before I move on. So Luz, can I hear what you have to say, please?
Yes, I was going to say that also as nowadays it's every time more difficult to escape the internet because, for example, for working or studying anything, you tend to use it even to like find out the meaning of a word or any. You don't really need social media to use internet.
Definitely. Daniela, do you want to add something as well?
Yeah, that I'm hearing a lot about like Google and stuff like that. But even when you think about it, the people who maybe can't afford any internet connection or device, if they have a credit card, that's already information that's digital. If wherever you walk, the chances of there being cameras recording you in public places, like it's all around you. So even though if you didn't have like a computer, none of PlayStation, none of that, even if you didn't use any of that, you'd still be recorded somewhere. If it's with credit cards, cameras, stuff like that you don't realize, and that we think about like, oh, but I still use Google and stuff. Some people don't because of that same reason, but they're still present in like the digital world because of the outside like factors.
That's something very wise to say, and it does happen. I have a couple of examples that I want to mention about that, but first I want to hear what Genesis have to say, and then I will hear Yahaya.
You said me right?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Well, digital social media that much, but that's not true because even now governments are promoting smart cities, and companies are promoting and doing developing smart technology. So even if you have a smart like TV or refrigerator, you're living a digital life because we're in a digital era. That's why.
That is true. Thank you. Yahira, do you want to add something else?
Yeah, just like really brief because they just mentioned all what I was going to say.
Of course.
But imagine of a person that don't really have any device, and it's like really rare, if we can say it, to think that they also have a digital footprint because, like Genesis was saying, the companies and the government are doing everything digitally. So then, when you try to have a new license for driving or when you get your ID card, so they put your information in the web, even though if you have not like the device or the resource of internet, you have a footprint over there because you gave the information for the government things or for something special in a company. So yeah, everyone like can avoid to be in a digital world because this is the now and present.
That is completely true, and that was one of the things that I wanted to mention. It is today. It's now close to impossible, and I'm not saying that it's fully impossible because, well, you can always try to live in a desert island where nobody's going to reach out to you, and that will have to happen even before you were born in an actual country, because now most of the countries, well, pretty much all of the countries, have a way to track you. Well, not track you. Sorry, that is not the right word. Even though, well, conspiracy theories out there may think the country, but most governments today have a way to get your information because you exist and they have you in a database. They have your picture. If you have entered to some countries, they even have your 10 fingers because you have to place them. That's one of the requisites. They get pictures. If you have an ID, you're going to have a digital footprint, even though you don't have any device. And if we take into consideration that now cameras, as it was mentioned, I believe that it was Daniela who mentioned that, are now recognizing some people and they're recording you, they're keeping you up in their cloud. Cars are now recording information, your lighting is recording information, and I'm saying that because the lights downstairs just went off, and well, that was something that was carried out automatically. Your TVs, your refrigerators, people who use devices to train like Fitbit, all of that information has been recorded. All of that has been kept. And I can tell you, it's very difficult for this kind of pieces of information to be deleted. Even though you tell yourself that you're a normal person, this kind of behaviors, they're important for bots that are installed, that they're going to analyze it and they're going to be targeting you to get new devices. If you have this lighting, they're going to be targeting you for the new lighting. They're going to be targeting you for more lighting. If you have a smart refrigerator, well, they're going to be targeting you for products that will allow you to clean them better. They're going to be reminding you about updates. They're going to be giving you so many different things just because you have those devices. Santiago, I want to hear from you, please.
Yeah, now that you mentioned smart refrigerators, I remember seeing somewhere a refrigerator that literally had like a device implanted into it. So you would see one of the doors and it had a literal phone, like a giant phone screen on it. And I think you maybe could even Google on it or something. But it's incredible how even with refrigerators, they might be able to track you. Or like maybe not track you, but record your information.
Yeah, and I can tell you a lot of these new refrigerators, they're capable of getting to, for example, like Alexa, and you can remind Alexa, or you can tell Alexa, hey, whenever you see this kind of product being run out, go to Amazon and order one, and order one so I can always have this kind of product available. And it's going to have reminders, and you can even order from your refrigerator saying, I'm running out of milk. You can order from your refrigerator. It becomes convenient. It's easy, but it's also information that it's been tracked from you. So yes, this kind of things that you do in real life can impact your digital life and the other way around. That's why we have a concept called social engineering. And I don't know if you have heard about that, but social engineering is basically a way for people to get to you through the information that they can get from either your devices or yourself, and just get a result that you may not want. So I don't know if you have heard, but it's very common for this kind of stickers to reveal information about you. I believe that you're seeing there in some of the stickers phone numbers, devices that can be targeted, and even how many users you may have in one house, and not only the users but their names, and even the kind of people that may live in that house. So it's fun. This can be used in a very different way, and I know that it's a little bit exaggerated, but this is the way that some of the people operate. They go to different profiles, they go to different social networks, and they start gathering information to contact others and to try to get either money or even more information, like we were talking before, just to satisfy their need. And this happens so very frequent. For people who live here in Costa Rica, you may be aware of the call center that, and I'm saying call center in the loosest way that I can say it, um, from people who get to you, contact you about a product that you're selling, and they try to get that product without even paying, just telling you that they have wired the money digitally, that they have given you what you were asking for without actually giving it to you. So this kind of thing, this kind of disguising myself as someone who I'm not, it's very common. It happens every day, and it's happening a lot in industries. I'm showing you here an email. Jahida, you want to say something before I get into this email?
Yeah, just about what you mentioned, that sometimes there are really bad people like trying to trick you and say, I already sent you the money. For example, I have a friend that was selling a dress in the internet, and she get in contact with this man. It was a man, and they like get in the way of buying, and she get him the sent him, sorry, the account for the money,
Mhm.
and he told her that he already paid, but in the bank web page it was not the money. And then he asked her for paying, because he said, okay, you're not giving me the dress, okay, give me my money again. And she was like, no, but you haven't given it to me. And it was really, really crazy. She had to go to the police and to report that kind of things, and she stopped selling online.
I can tell you it's extremely common. I'm pretty sure that most of us have a story similar to that. And some of these
Yeah,
people
crazy.
are becoming very creative, like extremely creative. They're even recreating websites for you to go to. They're hiring people, they're hiring IT people to run websites for them that are identical to the real thing and to try to trick you. So yes, it's extremely common. It is something that social engineering has. I mean, with the whole pandemic thing, we had a boom in the sales through the internet. That's something that we know, and a lot of people took advantage of that, and some others were taking advantage of the people who were taking advantage of that by recreating. Or they had so many techniques, or they today they have so many techniques. They have ways to talk to you. They get you on the phone, they talk to you, they try to convince you, they get others on the phone to try to convince you that you're talking to a bank. They get websites for you to go to, they get email accounts that look similar to the real thing. They have so many different methods to do it, and I can tell you, at least every 2 months we're have in where I work, we have accounts, or we have emails that are similar to the one that I'm showing you right now on the screen, that talk to you about an account that you may have, talk to you about something that you may be able to do, and a service that you may be able to lose, or even a service that you may be able to earn if you just do an action that they're talking to you about. So there are three main things here that are wrong, and that could let you know that this is what is called um, phishing. So may may I ask who has spotted some of the things? And I would like to hear a couple of people that I haven't heard from. I would like that. But please, if you can see something that is unusual in this email, just raise your hand so I can hear from you. Alrighty. So Daniela, do you have one?
Um, yeah, I believe the language that is being used is very colloquial and doesn't seem auto-generated as it usually should be. Plus, it's asking about a very specific case, which is not common whatsoever in transactions. So I think that would be the biggest like red flag.
That's a good one. Santiago, may I hear from you?
Yes, I'd say also the email address that is sent is might also give away that because, for example, I know that with Gmail, when they send an automated message, it says no reply something, and in here it just says random like email address, and I'm not really sure what actual email addresses from PayPal are, but that doesn't seem that legit.
It doesn't. That's right. Alrighty. Genesis, you want to mention something?
Also, what Daniela said, like it's asking for something specific, and I think that is to log into your account and go to the resolution center. I think that's the most specific, like thing.
Yep, that is something kind of unusual. There's one more that it's out there, or at least one more that I was able to spot here that really caught my attention, but I don't know if you have seen it, so I'll start revealing some of them. So yes, that email address is definitely off. And just for record, service at something, it's not that uncommon, but the fact that it's an Outlook account, that's an extremely big red flag, and that's one of the first things that you should try to look for whenever it comes to protecting your data. Companies don't use public email addresses. Not even Microsoft uses Outlook, and they're the people who created Outlook. So beware of that. You're not going to have something at Gmail because they won't use that. They will use something at Google, which are kind of accounts that you cannot create yourself. Another thing that I noticed, and this is something that it's not very common, but this PayPal logo, it doesn't have you seen that lovely trademark R that most logos have? This one doesn't have
Yeah.
it. And it is a very big thing for companies. Trademark for them, it's extremely big. So if you notice that they're not protecting their rights at any point, that's a huge red flag. So it's good to take that into consideration. And as you were saying, well, the language is pretty odd, but there's some new companies who are trying to sound quote unquote cool and try to make you feel like you're one of them. So even though it is weird, it's not unique. It's not like it doesn't happen. It does happen. But that kind of action of let's get into your account, let's see what you're capable of doing and what it's not capable of doing, that's not something that it's being carried out very often, and it's not something that they do. Normally, whenever you own a piece of software, you're capable of seeing what kind of rights a user has, and they're capable of telling you, hey, your account is been locked. We don't really, or accounts don't get partially locked, they get either locked or they don't. So that's another big red flag that you can take out of this email. I can tell you that we're almost finished. I wanted to answer my initial question. What happened if you don't read those terms and conditions? Well, since we don't, and I'm saying we because I have to admit that most times I don't. There are different websites. I really like this one because first of all, it's an org site, which indicates that you can have different people collaborating on this one, and they have revisers. So if they input something that is extremely silly, it's going to be caught by someone using their service and someone who owns their service. So that's something. It does have the possibility of including in other web pages in case that you want to have that included somewhere. It has an API, so it talks to other services, and it helps you to understand that. And you can do some pretty cool things with this kind of site. And just give some of the examples. I'm showing you this one. It has a lot of different websites for you to understand. You can, it even has a search bar, and that I believe that you can see in the bottom here that says search for a service here. It has different services or different websites, and they grade them. They go from privacy A to privacy F, if I'm not incorrect. So you can tell how Facebook is right now. And I can tell you that a lot of this is because the privacy conditions, the privacy terms that sites have may not adjust to what users want to have. And they rate them, they give you some of the most outstanding things that you can find out of these different terms and conditions. And it even helps you with common questions like the one that I was telling you. What happens if I don't read terms and conditions? They say the service can read your private messages. That those are different questions that people have had, and that through terms and conditions they can be answered. So if you want to know what is going to happen to your data, what is going to happen to anything that you do digitally, these kind of terms and conditions should specify that. And you can find websites like this that are going to be helpful to you in case that you don't want to read the whole thing, because even if you read the whole thing, there's a big chance that you're not going to get everything or retain everything, because they try to do it with very formal, appealing to lawyer types of language. And it's not like I don't trust you with this, because I don't really know you all that well, but it's not very common to find someone who has that kind of capacity of fully understanding everything that is coming in this kind of contracts. And I can tell you this because my current role, I need to look for tools. And when it comes to tools, I need to sit down and read their terms and conditions. And even after I read those, I need to go to our lawyers, tell them, hey, here are the terms and conditions. Please read them to me and see if you have anything outstanding that you want to figure out. Because it's difficult. So sites like this are going to really help you. And just to conclude with this, it is important that you understand something. Do any of you, and please try to be honest, because I'm going to be honest myself, do any of you have used software that it's not been legally acquired? And when I'm saying legally acquired, meaning that some of their licenses have been cracked, maybe the licenses were not paid, and they were not technically free. I can tell that most of you at some point may have used this, or may have used a piece of software that is not fully 100% legal. Alan, I see that you're raising your hand. Do you want to mention something, please?
No, just to answer your question.
To note. Thank you. I appreciate it. Santiago, should I assume that it's the same for you?
Yeah, I was just say that, like, for example, one of these days I tried to install free Photoshop, and I think I got myself a virus. But yeah,
it's very common. So yes, that happens, and you have no idea how common it is for people who try to crack this kind of pieces of software. And I can tell you, my life, I've done it. I try not to do it. It's fun because, and you will be surprised, but one of the most common pieces of software that gets cracked, aside from Microsoft Office, and don't ask me why Microsoft Office is in that spot, or has that shameful spot of being the number one type of software that gets cracked. The second piece of software that gets cracked the most often is antivirus. So you're cracking what is supposed to be helping you to avoid others from cracking you. So it's kind of ironic, and it's not very good. So it's just what happens. It is important for you to take into consideration that there might be software that you don't want to have installed on your computers when that happens. Augusto, were you saying yes, or were you raising your hand?
No, I was raising my hand because I actually got to look a little bit into it a few weeks ago when I was doing stuff for VPNs. At my school, we have a lot of restrictions. and we usually
Uh-huh.
can't get even to the pages that the school provides to us. Like they gave us this one link to do some work, and we can't open it, and it's like we gotta use a VPN. And then
Oof.
I wanted to install one in my computer, like my laptop, and I looked for
Mhm.
options, and I ended up finding that most of the ones that I use for my iPad and my phone, they are
Mhm.
actually ranked one in the for the ones that steal the most information from you, and I found that really
Yeah.
funny.
Just for people who don't know what a VPN is, and I will assume that at least one of you don't know doesn't know that. VPNs are basically they're virtual tunnels. They basically take your actual network and they route it through a different location, a different geographical location. So the internet provider or the service provider, sorry, understands that you're not actually coming from your actual location, but you're coming from a different geographical location. This is really used for people who want to protect their data, and also for people who want to watch Netflix from different countries, or even, well, streaming services in general. So yeah, this is being used for good and, well, goodish reasons around the world. Just for the record, terms and conditions for Netflix say that you're technically not allowed to do that. You're technically not allowed to use a VPN, disguise yourself as someone from a different location, and try to
Yeah,
access their service as if you were from some other country.
that also happened to me
Just
with
saying that.
other platforms. Like for example, I think it was HBO Max that I wanted to watch a series, and I
Mhm.
had my VPN on, and I was like, maybe if I take it off, and it let me use it, which is funny. Also,
It's very common. I can tell you, a lot of different companies are trying to protect themselves from that, just because they don't want their services to be saturated. But yeah, it does happen. So VPNs, they help a lot. They protect you a lot. They protect in a very similar fashion than firewalls do. And firewalls, they're a good thing. They're a double-edged sword. It is the kind of thing that will help you get protection, but can also like kick you out. So it's pretty much the case what you were talking about from high school. They tell you, hey, you're protected, but now you're not able to access the resources that you needed to access. Santiago, you want to say something?
Yeah, about using technically illegitimate software. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
have just two questions. First of all, about installing cracked software, like, I don't know, video editors or games or things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Could you actually get in trouble for that? And also, what I was going to
Mm-hmm.
ask is, for example, I once tried to install. I don't know if you have heard of this game, Plants vs Zombies, and there's like a
Mm-hmm.
Chinese version. So I remember I made an Apple ID on China and put like random data, and it actually accepted it. But I'm not sure. Is that also illegal or something? Like, could you get in trouble for that?
Ooh. Well, it really depends on the country, because that's not something it's difficult for a company to go and say, hey, we're looking for Santiago who cracked our software who was worth $400. It's not something that they're going to really do. If you actually crack a big number of licenses, they might be behind your butt. They're going to look for you and they're going to try to chase you. And the Costa Rican legislation and justice legislation around the world, they do punish people who crack software. That's something that happens, and then they have the legal tools to do that. Do that happens very often? Not that much. And again, it happens to big providers, big people who get this kind of services. That's something, and even people who store that in their servers for others to download it. That's where you get the big punishment. But
So
it's not that common. But I can tell you, countries like Japan, they have very tight, extremely tight security for this kind of things. And if they catch you with a license, they can even arrest you if you're selling this kind of products that are branded but are not the official products, you're actually kind of like using the image of, let's say, an anime character, and you're printing that on mugs, and you're selling those mugs. They can arrest you for that, and they have arrested people who have made money out of selling mugs or selling purses or T-shirts that are not licensed. So it really depends on the country. Pretty much all of the countries have this kind of intellectual property laws to prevent you from doing that. And you as an owner, if you create something and you want to punish someone from stealing from you, that is doable. So that can happen. And I believe that your second question was about that account that you created for the Chinese version of Plants vs. Zombies, right?
Yeah, I actually am not using
for-
it because of that. I preferred to stop using it.
I can tell you, China has some very unique laws when it comes to their intellectual property. They're and I can tell you, it's very unique to the different resources, because we have there one of the best places to get some bootleg things, a lot of bootleg things that you can get from China. And there might be okay, but when it comes to digital content, they're extremely tight, especially with having their people access resources from outside of China. So you as a foreigner accessing something from China, it's not going to be something that they will see as bad, because they won't, or at least in most cases it's not, but they might see worse that a Chinese citizen goes and try to access resources from places other than China. So it's something that it's important to mention, and it's good to mention that for this kind of things, cracked software, it may steal more information than the benefit that you're going to receive out of the software. Just finally, folks, if you're ever a developer, if you ever decide on creating software yourself, you're going to see how much impact data has. And even if you're not a developer, if you're just someone like me who analyzes data that other users create, and you just try to make sure that that security is out there and that you're secure, you're going to see that data plays a big role. It's completely important, and it's really good that you take into consideration that that is becoming that new currency, that zeros and ones are turning into money, and they're making some people very wealthy. And if you want to start a career in data, I can tell you, and even if you don't want to start a career in data, it's extremely important that you understand how to analyze a little bit of data, how to get the data and get the most out of it. So I will encourage you, and this is just only a recommendation from someone who I believe has lived a little longer than you, to start looking at data with different eyes, to just try to go out there and try to learn a little bit of what data is, what it does, how to analyze that, how to interpret this kind of informs. And I can tell you, it can really shift your career, because most of these careers that you'll be having in today, and especially in 5 or more years, they're going to be very data centric. You're going to see a lot of people trying to generate even more money out of data. And I'm going to be honest with you, bots cannot understand data the way that we do it. Bots can get a lot of the data. Bots can grab a lot of the data that you create, but people understand what people do. So those new jobs that we're creating are coming from understanding the data. So if you're ever willing to really push your career forward, try to give that a chance, okay? And try to make it secure, because that's also the biggest portion of the pie here. And folks, that's pretty much what I have for you today. Now, floor is yours again.
Thank you so much, Janka. And thank you so much, everyone, for your attention in this talk. I know it was pretty interesting to once again get a little bit more into what we're actually doing online, because it's pretty simple. Just check a box, click next, hit login, and gain access to an application. Nonetheless, sometimes it's hard to actually know what you're signing up for. So Bianca, thank you so much for your presentation today. It was truly amazing, very insightful. Everyone, please a huge round of applause for Bianca today. Great international applause. It's such a loud applause. It's getting all the way from the United States to Argentina. That's actually the entire world, literally in a straight line. So pretty
much. No, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Any final remarks?
Either from me or the audience?
Yeah, from you.
Well, what I can say is, folks, thank you so much for having me today, for your attention, for your participation. I have a teacher living in me, so just having youngsters like yourselves coming in and paying attention to what I have to say and interact with me, that really made my day. You have actually made a really good day become even a better day. So I appreciate that a lot, and try to remember that is the future. So, and it's the present. So pay attention to it.
Totally. I don't know if Santi has any final remarks.
Yeah, just to make sure. So about the cracked software, the person who could get arrested or punished would be the person who develops the cracked software, not the one who downloads it, right?
Well, technically, the one who downloads it can get a punishment. Again, it's extremely unlikely that it happens, because you will have to really be a big distributor of software, and even the person who develops that, well, the person who develops that is going to get obviously punished, because it's cracking someone else's software, and also the people who distribute that. If you have a service that is hosting this kind of cracked software, you're going to get a big punishment as well. But the person who downloads that, it's unlikely, but I've seen cases of countries that do that. I can tell you that here in Costa Rica it's not very common, but the legal system does allow to punish people who download that. But again, difficult that it happens.
Yeah, I understand. I think maybe just to do it if it's extremely necessary, because yeah, it's better to do it legitimately.
It's always good to also look for alternatives. There are different alternatives for software. For Photoshop, you can do something like GIMP, that it's a legal option, that it's open for use, license is completely free, and you can use something like that. There are a lot of tools that are out there to look for. You can always go to Google and do alternative to whatever piece of software. You're going to find a lot of different options, and a lot of them are either free or they have trial periods. So try to use that. Try not to use crack. Again, I've done it in the past. I promise myself not to do it again because of what I've been doing. So yes, try to use alternatives to that, or try to create the real thing. I can promise you that there's a reason why people purchase that, and companies are giving you a lot more than they used to for their software. So yeah, that'll be the last that I have to say about that.
Totally. Yeah, if you guys want to know about that, I actually learned Photoshop on a cracked version, probably like 12 years ago. But then eventually, as I started growing up and I understood, the implications of that, and in the end, technically, I wouldn't like somebody else to be using a software that I spent time, money, just a bunch of, just energy in creating, to have just somebody have it for free somewhere in the world. And I'll be honest with you, nowadays companies are really pushing the bar low in terms of prices. You can get Photoshop for as low as $10 a month without even committing to a long term. You can just pay for it 1 month if that's all you want to do. And then if you're a student as well, you get loads of discounts if you sign up with your, school email.
Try to have your school email with you, because it's really going to give you discounts in a lot of different places, even more than you would think of, and you will even get free software at times.
Totally.
Interesting. I'm going to see that out, because I didn't really know how the discounts worked.
Mm-hmm. All right, everyone. Thank you once again. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We'll see you tomorrow with the pre-conference meetup. Once again, thank you so much, Janka. Amazing talk. Thank you everyone once again for attending to our last global talk of the season. So bit of a nostalgic feel to this one, but of course, once we're done with global talks, once we're done with the pre-conference meetup, the big challenge comes for every single one of you this weekend with our conference. Are you guys